All right, welcome to episode 4 of the FCG podcast. Here again with our co-host Connor Benjamin, and we're very excited to have a very good friend of mine, Mr. Ryan Donovan, the head men's golf coach at San Diego State University. We go way back, just so everybody knows. We did play college golf together at San Diego State, and lots of good memories. And he's been one of my best friends since then. So good to have him on the show and talk a little about college golf. And thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good morning, guys.
Oh man, it's always fun when you get I mean, Coach Ryan, like you've been in the industry now for 20 plus years. Like you've been a touring pro. You've just about done it all, like in the golfing industry. I guess I just kind of wanted to touch on first is, what kind of made you want to become a coach in the first place? Like, did it kind of feel like destiny, or was it kind of something over time where you just felt like, hey, this is what I'm meant to be doing?
Yeah, I got a little bit lucky, to be honest. I was caddying and parking cars out in Arizona after my mini tours that I was very unsuccessful at, and realized that golf wasn't the path that I wanted to pursue. So I had the opportunity to come back as the assistant coach when Tim Mickelson took the head job at USD. Yeah,
a lot of history there.
Right.
Okay. It's actually quite interesting because like the two of you took a very different path. Like after college, Chris went into the teaching route, and then you went into the coaching route. Chris, what made you get into the teaching route as opposed to the coaching route? Like, did it ever cross your mind that you wanted to kind of go down that route?
Not initially. I think now I'm more interested in the coaching route than before, but I kind of fell into teaching. It was just I had an opportunity at Stadium Golf Center to do it, and I found out that I liked it, and just kind of went from there. But I don't think that was ever a goal to be a college coach. But he did such an amazing job, and I've been able to watch him with, how many teams have you had now? In 20 years?
20 years, a lot of players. For sure.
20 years, a lot of players. Yeah, so it's fun. I've always picked Ryan's brain too on, if we go back to the early part of starting Future Champions. I don't know if you remember this, but we started, our first season was called the FCG Challenge Tour. I don't think you probably even know this.
I wasn't even alive for it.
Probably not. And our goal was to set it up really hard and make tournaments really hard so that the kids would play other big tournaments better. And it worked really well. But parents got a little frustrated that we set them up so hard, and then you found out that the junior golf rankings, the rankings were going down because the course was so hard and they were shooting so high. But if you look back at that class of players from that year, it was unbelievable. Who, like to this day, who's playing like big golf. I think that was probably part of it. So it's fun that we started that, and then we had to pivot a year later and switch it up a little bit. So.
Yeah, because a lot of times when we go to these junior tournaments, they have them set up, playing from the way tees, or all the pins are in the middle of the greens, and obviously the scores are better. It doesn't relate to coming to college because the courses we play are tough and the pins are tucked, and all those different variables. So we thought it was a good idea.
Maybe at too young an age.
Yeah. But,
do you find that to kind of carry through? Do you find the junior golfers who have been almost coddled in a way to play these easy courses, like these easy setups? Do you feel like that's not really a true indication of, like when you're recruiting players, do you try to go to these hardest of the toughest tournaments, where they're not afraid to stuff pins and they're not afraid to tip you out at 7,200 yards? Do you like to prioritize who you recruit based on what tournaments they play, or like what are you looking for in those recruits?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you want to see guys shoot low scores, so it's okay to play an easy course, but you want them to shoot low 60s. But then when you have Torrey Pines, for instance, you have 100 plus coaches out there because it's tough and it really exposes you as a player. So you really get to see kind of where their game's at and where it's going to be on the college level. I think it's a combination of both. But yeah, going to the U.S. Junior, those type of USGA events are great for us to go to just to really just see where their game's at.
Definitely. Absolutely. I feel like me growing up as a junior, I kind of grew up a little bit outside exposure because I came in from Australia very outside the radar, didn't play any U.S. tournaments, kind of a unique situation, and came back and played a slew of tournaments over the summer of 2018, and happened to get picked up, like on the radar, sent out a bunch of emails. Actually, my you probably got an email from me because my entire strategy was I went on Wikipedia and Googled every D1 coach in California and sent an email to every single one of them, just like, hey, here's like who I am. I've been playing these tournaments. I've been shooting 71, 70s, da da da. And just so happens I got picked up by California Baptist, and that's kind of how I came in. But I always felt like, I played at Twin Oaks, like Encinitas Ranch, kind of those easier courses. And I feel like my kind of saving grace was I played out at the Vineyard and, had a terrible front nine. Felt, obviously first time playing in front of a college coach, me being 16, 17 years old, having no idea what to expect, got really nervous. First hole of the Vineyard, that short little par four up the hill, hit it to like 80 yards out, and then probably just missed the green with like a long wedge in hand. And my dad's over there in the corner, just face palming himself to death because his son has done all this work over the last 17 years. He's going to do this in front of a college coach, the first time he comes out. Do you feel like nerves are a natural part of like watching a college coach? Do you feel like you almost like emanate this sense of pressure, like on the kids, like while you're watching them?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. I mean, I try to tell kids when I'm recruiting, if you see a coach, try to embrace it and wave and say hi and thanks for coming out, just to have that bond as opposed to like, oh my God, he's watching every shot that I'm hitting and what's he thinking? And half the time we're not watching every shot. We're just kind of seeing the demeanor of the player, more their attitude and how they bounce back when they do have a bad hole or a bad shot. So a lot of it isn't looking at every shot throughout the whole 18 holes. So try to take that pressure off the kids for that part of it.
That would have been great to know about 4.5 years ago when that mattered.
Yeah.
But what traits? So obviously, you kind of touched on, like demeanor and attitude. What traits do you look for in particular for players?
For us personally, I mean, we're looking for the growth of the player. Maybe that they haven't reached their ceiling yet, and that we're like, this guy, if we get a couple of years under our belt, that he can really, really take off. So looking at somebody that's just hungry and strives and wants to play golf and wants to play in college and just loves the game, I think has a passion for it, is forced to do it. So I think those are things that we look for. Confidence, I think, helps a lot too. Somebody that's somewhat confident out there and comfortable hitting a bad shot and not worrying about it too much. And then short game. I think short game is important to look at, but that's hard to teach when you get older. So I think that's something that we really try to look for is good chippers and putters, really.
Definitely. So kind of throwing it back to your guys' college days, and like obviously you two play together. And I'm going to throw this question to both of you. What do you feel like the dynamics were in the team room? Because obviously golf is a different breed when it comes to collegiate golf or sports where you are competing against your teammates for spots. And then you have to turn around 3 days later and go be on the road with them and like bunk with them and cheer them on and try to fight for them. In your guys' experience playing college, what did you learn the most about team dynamics and how do you bring that, like into your teaching today?
Yeah, I think team dynamics and chemistry are very, very important for the team because even though you're out there on the golf course competing and trying to beat each other, when you're done, you're done. And you can see it in the pro level. It's like some of those guys are best friends and they're trying to, beat each other when they're out there, but then when they're done, they go out to dinner and hang out and do those kind of things. So I think learning how to separate the two, when you're in that competition mode and then when you're outside of it to kind of let that go and, remain friends and support each other and pick each other up and try to teach each other and things of that nature. I think if you can separate the two, it's a pretty good dynamic. And I think our group, we still talk to a lot of guys on the team and have remained friends over all these years and can still banter a little bit back and forth and tell funny stories. And it was a great experience. And like Chris said, best friends from those years. So cool.
Definitely. And Chris, what about you? How do you feel like your dynamics from your college days have kind of trickled over into your teaching now?
Yeah, I think college golf is unique and different for everybody, right? Like everybody doesn't have the same experience. My experience wasn't the most positive in the end. I think I had a decent little run early, but then I didn't play that great, and then ended up getting cut later on. So I think for me though, what that whole team experience did was I wanted to help kids get that experience and do it right, since I did it wrong, and that's what I've been doing so my whole career. So I think it's just a little different.
Interesting. So, Coach Donovan, you've been head coach now for SDSU for 20 years. Walk us through some of your most memorable moments as coach at SDSU. I mean, obviously you have 3 All Mountain West players, including JJ Swan, who's currently on the pro circuit. You've coached, obviously, Xander Schauffele, who top 5, 10 in the world right now. You've come top 15 in countless national championships. I'm dying to know, what are some of your most memorable experiences coaching SDSU?
Yeah, there's been quite a few. I've been very lucky. Obviously, when you have good players, it makes you look good as a coach. So you just try to mentor them and support them. And I've always wanted to be a player's coach, so I never want anyone to be intimidated, from me or my assistant. And we try to talk to our players and hear about their experiences and what they need and what they want. And I think opening that up and kind of creating a family culture has helped us a lot. Yeah, we've some great memories. Obviously, at the Riviera, going to match play, coming down the stretch there, the final 8 there was pretty special. I think our first national championship we went to, we had a guy get up and down from 100 yards to get us to go there. That was like my second year, and we practiced that year 100 yards in the whole year. That's all we did. We didn't do any other practice except that. So we would go out to Squan and just hit wedges after wedge and shoot them and track them. And so it was cool to see that reward after all the hard work that they put in. So that was cool. Winning conference this last year was pretty special because it was a very senior group and going through COVID and whatnot. It was cool for those guys to be down by 10 with 9 holes to play and end up winning by 5. So that was really cool for the guys. ZL making 6 birdies, who Chris teaches, coming down the stretch was something I'll never forget. So to see his excitement, but yeah, I think seeing the guys together and their success and the ups and downs, and being able to stay in touch with them, I think is pretty rewarding.
I kind of like it because for me, I love the college dynamic because it is, you have so many different experiences over such a short period of time, and I've only seen the player side so far. And, I'm still excited about my future and what, potentially, like even me being part of SCG in kind of a small way right now and slowly getting better is I really enjoy helping, like next generation out. I think that's what all 3 of us have here in common is we have this intense love for, nurturing players up into their future because I did my junior career for a year and still regret it to this day. And, obviously we all have our ups and downs from college. I mean, Chris, like you might not have gotten more of it than Coach Donovan did. I got something out of it. I didn't really get something out of it. I don't know. I feel like golf is what you make of it, but I still feel like all 3 of us have this really intense love for the game, and that's kind of what drives us to do these sort of things as opposed to, doing something else per se. I mean, I have a degree, or I'm currently working towards a degree in chemical engineering, and I played with a graduate from Colorado School of Mines, San Diego County Open, who I was kind of talking to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I graduated with mechanical engineering." And I was like, "Do you ever have any intention of using it?" He's like, "No." Imagine graduating with one of the best degrees possible, and you're straight off the cuff. Your answer is, "I had never thought of using it." And I asked him why, and he said, "It's because I love the game. I can't imagine myself at a desk doing a 9 to 5. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it because I love the game." After talking to him, it kind of rationalized a lot of these thoughts that I have going through my head. Maybe I don't want to do a desk job either. I don't feel like I'm ever going to use my degree. I want to eventually go pro at some point, or I want to start teaching, or I want to start coaching. It's like, it's these thoughts, and, I guess, Coach Ryan, like maybe you could add on to this, it's very interesting for players who are getting degrees who might have no chance of using it. Obviously there's like a lot of talk of, your top 7 golfers typically know how to play golf, and then your bottom 5 golfers know how to play golf. Do you structure your teams kind of that way, or do you just want all competitors and then worry about the GPA?
Yeah, it's a balance. I mean, we take a lot of pride in getting good grades. I think it's important because it's just something that you have to work for and you're putting an effort into, kind of like golf. So I think it's cool when guys are smart and do well in school because it takes pressure off when we're traveling and things of that nature. So we're trying to recruit everyone that's competitive and wants to be in the starting five. Sometimes, yeah, it does separate throughout the year. And so you guys that know their role that is on the team, if that's a support role, if that's a cheerleader kind of role, if that's getting the good grades, doing all the things. So I think it's a balance of all, for sure. But having the passion for the game is really important. Being forced to play it. I think Chris and I both, we don't have desk jobs, but we wake up every day and we're like, oh, it's going to be different today. I don't know what to expect. I don't know if I'm going to get.
It's always those pesky phone calls.
Yeah, you're just like, what's going on now? But I think having that passion and that feeling every day makes this job, that's why golf is such a great sport. People can play it forever, so many different ages, which is really cool. So we try not to take golf away from them in college and the fact that make it miserable. If they are having a bad experience or maybe it's not the right place to play, we'll sit down and say, well, maybe you want to go to a different school, so you're playing. But I think the most important thing going to college is picking the right school that you can play and be pushed at. Because going to school and sitting on the bench for 12 years is not fun. Going to the 6 a.m. workouts, doing the study hours, doing all the things that we demand. To do that, not be able to go on the road and compete and be with your teammates, that's the most valuable thing in college. And to that story, and it's easy because obviously Xander's had so much success, but he could have went to a lot of big name schools, but he wanted to play every college. And so he went to Long Beach State his first year. I didn't offer him enough scholarship, so that was the dummy side of me. I look back on it and be like, oh, really? Thought it was worth 50%. But looking back after his 4 years, even being there for the first year, he played every college tournament for 4 years. And he said that experience just transformed me to the next level. It was no big deal. He had so many rounds under his belt, so many experiences, so many opportunities. That it just felt like another day when he was going to school. So I think that's important for the school that you can play.
That is a super fascinating point, and I always like to tell my players that because it's a really tough thing to experience when you've put all this work in. I mean, for most of us, we start somewhere between the ages of 2 to 10, and by the time we get into college, we've been playing for 10 plus years, and I feel like a lot of the mindset of junior golfers these days is to play for the best school that you possibly can. It's like, I'm going to go for Harvard, I'm going to go for SDSU, I'm going to go for UCSD, I'm going to go for Long Beach State, and then they get there and then they're freshmen and these coaches, I'm not trying to name names here, but a lot of them will have a slight senior bias. And so these freshmen might get to play until their junior year. And they could have easily taken more scholarship, a slightly worse school, worse being it's not highly ranked, but if you're a good enough player, you can bump the ranks up. I went to a tiny D2 after my years at Cal Baptist because of COVID, again, engineering. And we were ranked 124th in the nation. And we grabbed a kid from Texas State, we grabbed a kid, me, and then we grabbed a couple of kids from JUCO. And by the end of the year, we were inside the top 30. And so it's like, I feel like, these players, a lot of these junior golfers, especially who play in our events, who I talk to, like, oh, Connor, I'm talking to Coach Donovan, I'm super excited. It's like, it's great if you get in, but what happens when you don't play for 3 years? Like, it takes a toll on you mentally. And for me at Cal Baptist, I struggled with my freshman year. I really did. I went through a massive swing change, and it sucks sitting on the bench. It just does. It's plain and simple. No way. There's no easy way. And it is. It's tough when you go to a school that you might be reaching for it, and you get, and that's a super great, super fantastic achievement. Why? You're not playing. And it's like, well, what have you done on the? You're not going to 6 a.m. workouts. You're clocking. I used to have to clock 20 hours a week to study. And so it's like, if you're not clocking those 20 hours, you're going to get cut. And what happens when you get cut? And then you either jump in the portal and you bank on some college coach picking you up. It's like, when I could have taken, and I thought that too. I was like, should I have just gone to a D2 straight out of the gate that was engineering based? I was like, no, I wanted to play D1. That's the goal that I had in my brain. It's like, yes, I achieved that. It's fantastic. But it's also, do I regret only playing 50% of my tournaments? Yeah, I do. I really do. I feel like my experience wasn't as optimized as what it could have been. So that's why I always try to tell junior golfers nowadays to, go somewhere where you are going to play, because you're going to have so much more enjoyment play. And all of these schools have fantastic facilities. A lot of them all of them have playing rights somewhere. You're going to play somewhere more than decent. But playing golf, and I think touching on traveling, playing with your teammates is what makes, like the college experience. Chris, like I know, you mentioned your dynamics with your team and the dynamics with your coach. If you could go back, would you maybe play for a different college, or or like did you find your time enough to the point where that's good?
I started golf at 15 and a half. So it was a late bloomer.
Late bloomer, okay.
I was just trying to get as good at golf as I possibly could. And I got pretty good my junior year. I think I started shooting under par late summer. And then in spring, my senior year, I think I won like 4 mini tour events. On Mondays, I go to school and won those. And then I finished second in CIF in San Diego, and then finished fourth in the regional. And I got picked up June 6th, my senior year. But my goal was to go to junior college and just get as good as I could. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college, so it wasn't something that I was supposed to do. So it was kind of on my own. And then I don't think I would have gone to state in hindsight. I mean, I would have done it different had I known what I know now. But I think the school was probably a little too big for me, and like too much like, well, you're at San Diego State. Like that wasn't my personality at the time. And so I think I either would have been better if I had just maybe turned pro, or if I had just gone to probably anywhere else. But I had the right mindset for getting good at golf at the time, but especially just the education at San Diego State. I was in a classroom of 30 kids at Branchmore High School, and then all of a sudden I'm in a classroom with 500 kids, and they don't make you study. They just give a test every few weeks. Like, okay, I'll show up and take the test. But I don't think I did that very well. So, yeah, here we are.
And also, when we came in as freshmen, the hard part with our team was we had a bunch of JUCO transfers and older guys, and so we were young. I mean, these guys were 4 years old, and mature and played, competed already. So I think that was tough too.
Good point.
Great
Let's
guys.
talk about. I'm sure the viewers like here. So we played with Scott Piercy, who's now won how many times? 3 times on the PGA Tour. I always find it interesting. Or I try to tell the story. He was good, but not. I don't know if any of us thought he was going to be on the PGA Tour, and here he is today.
He did.
That's what I tell all my students is that he knew, like in his mind, he was going to be a PGA Tour player, even though the scores maybe didn't reflect it. He did work hard. He always what he was supposed to do. I don't know what your experiences were.
He just had the attitude. I mean, he was going to be on tour. There was no other route that he was going, and that's what he was doing no matter what. And he had that mindset, and he had that attitude, and he wasn't afraid to hit back shots, and he would, and it wouldn't faze him. He'd keep going for par 5s and 2, and stay impressed on par 3s. And it was just a demeanor more than anything. And, he did work hard, but did the right things, but he had a path that he was sticking to and staying in his lane, and nobody was getting in the way. And it took him a while. I mean, he did many tours for 8 or 9 years, and he had a motorhome. He was traveling all over the country, and but nothing was stopping him. And that's why he's out there today. So,
good story.
Yeah. And a good guy. He keeps in touch with us. He's going to be on one of the podcasts down the road. Good guy. And so we saw a lot of average golf from him in college, for sure.
I feel like we've all seen a lot of average golf from everybody. It's not. I mean, I'm sure PGA Tour pros have their bad days as well. I'm sure, Phil's been notorious for playing out the farms shooting 63 or 83, and there's no in between out there, because if you're straight, it's great, and if not, you're on another planet.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to circle back to your guys' point about, like, why not freshmen? Obviously, you have a freshman on your team right now, Shea Lag, ranked top 20 in the country. What has he done to separate himself? Because obviously there's always going to be that big learning curve in college. I felt it. I'm sure 99% of the collegiate athletes have felt it. What has kind of separated Shea out from the rest? Is it more of a mindset mentality, or is it just he just got raw talent and just what do you think are the best ways to kind of mitigate this big learning curve for college freshmen?
I think he was one that kind of stayed in San Diego, played in San Diego, won in San Diego. And I think when you can stay in your area and you're winning and building that confidence, you don't have to travel all over the country to compete. You want to stay on the West Coast and stay on the West Coast and play in those tournaments. And there's so many good players here in California. So I think he just had that winning mentality when he was a junior. Just has kind of transformed to where he is today. He drives it well, puts and chips it well, doesn't really get in a lot of trouble. Pretty fearless out there. And again, he's not afraid to hit a bad shot. I think that's so important because you can't do it perfectly throughout 18 holes. So his level of maturity is just very, very even keeled. He doesn't get up or down too much. And, he just goes on and plays the game. He's very talented as well. so that does help. But, I think freshmen just coming in with that mindset, like I'm going to play and I'm going to go through the qualifyings and just show my game and just let it happen. And you start building confidence. So I think that's going back to playing. And the more you play, the more confidence you have. And you're not afraid out there like, I'm going to lose my spot. What's going to happen next week? And just stay in the moment and just keep moving forward. That's all you can do.
I like this story. I mean, he grew up in two champions. That's pretty much all they played. I mean, he played some other stuff pretty much locally, but he just got better every year. Like, played out at Singing Hills and Steel Canyon, and probably still doing the same thing today. Yeah, really good. That's awesome. I had a question about what age do you start recruiting? Or do you start looking at them?
Freshman, probably in high school. Yeah. I mean, I guess, we hear things early before that.
Yeah.
But I think freshman, sophomore, because your bodies are changing and you're getting bigger and older. And I think it's just for us, we get guys later than earlier.
We're not going to say you seem to get them later.
Some of the big schools get a commitment and grade and things like that. But I like them to kind of play through their career. Be hungry still and want it. Don't get complacent by any means. So for us, we get them a little bit later. Sure.
So I want to talk about your experiences in the USAM and the British Am. That's a long time ago now. But I know you qualified for the USAM twice and the British Am once. What were those experiences like? Is the format a little different, to like nowadays? And more importantly, what did you take away from it?
Yeah, I was young for that first one that I qualified for, Pumpkin Ridge. I remember seeing Tiger Woods there, and I was like, wow, what am I doing here? And I think the first putt in practice round, I got off the green. The green was so fast. I was like, wow, this is going to be a great experience. But I had my dad on the back, so that was cool, caddying. And I didn't play very good. I played okay at pedal. I was kind of maybe going to make match play come down the stretch, but that didn't happen. But anyway, just great experience. The USGA events were awesome, and they're still running the same kind of schedule they are now. It's in the same format. So it's kind of fun to reflect on that. But the British was great. It was just cold. I didn't have the gear to handle that. So
San Diegans are very blessed out here.
It was a little soft.
Like I woke up this morning, it's like, dang, it's like 45 degrees outside. It's freezing out here. And then, like over there for the British Open, I'm like 4 layers of jackets and get ready to go play. Yeah. Where did you play out for the British Open? Or Am?
That's you. I knew you were going to ask me that. Back of my head. Presswick, and I couldn't remember.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah. It was cool. I had this little wall on the right side on the first hole, and this train was going by, 100 miles an hour. And you're just like, don't hit the train. I'm heading over that wall, So you guys smother them left and just kind of get it out there. But, cool experiences. I caddied a couple years ago for a player at in North Carolina at Pinehurst. So that was another experience that I will always remember. And intersecting in stroke play. And won his first match. In his second match, he was paired against another one of my players. So it was so awkward. I said, I was 64 guys, then 32. I'm like, how did this happen? And the numbers weren't even really matching up in the sense of, one plays 64, It was like, it was kind of random. But that was a tough one to go through. But that experience for USAM was really special. And then we had a guy, Gun Yang, in 2014. We had 4 guys playing at this USAM, and jokingly I said, I'll fly out if somebody makes the finals. Just kind of, it's the best field in the world. And all of a sudden it's Friday, and Gun Yang's just beating people left and right. And I called my work and said, I got to get to Atlanta. So I jumped on a plane, got in at 2 in the morning. He was wearing a different company factory-wise because he didn't have enough clothes. And so I had to go to my equipment room, get all this new gear for him because he was going to be on TV. And we had to represent who was sponsoring us. So I meet him at 6 in the morning. It's him, me, and a security guard on the driving range because he wanted to be there super early. And it was surreal. I mean, by the end of that day, there was thousands of people walking the fairways. And I'm like, this is happening right now. And he won the U.S. Amateur. He was a guy ranked 800 and something in the country. Was barely making our lineup. And just, we had a long talk after Stanford, I'll never forget. And I said, I want you to go play every tournament possible. City college events, mini tour events, any tournament you could find. And he played in probably 20 events that summer. And again, just had that competition and started building some confidence, started playing better, and it just took off. So it was crazy because he was struggling to get lineup. That summer was the U.S. Amateur, and kind of changed his life for a couple of years.
You probably weren't going to leave him out of the lineup after that, were you? It's kind of all right, I think you're feeling right now. We can't really not have the reigning USA.
Yeah. So, he took a year off and, played Augusta, played all the majors, played a bunch of pro events, and then he came back that next year and played for us. And that actually helped us. He made a 2 on a par 5 on against Texas A&M to qualify for nationals. So that was pretty cool to see.
That's about as clutch as it gets, honestly. Having an albatross on a par 5 just to get your team into nationals.
It was a 6-iron break pin, and I'm talking to him like, just hit it left of the pin, middle of the green. Very conservative approach. You got 5 guys playing, and he said, I think I pushed a little. And I said, you were going at that flag, didn't you? He said, I'm not telling. But anyway, I went in and the place went ecstatic. So those are some of my USM experiences.
Wow, that's incredible. Chris, do you have any similar experiences in these big events? Like with some of the players. I mean, obviously you just went through Corn Ferry qualifying with Zihao. I mean, that was a huge deal. Do you have any other cool stories about kind of these massive events?
I mean, the USAM in 2017, I was on the bag for Joey Verzic when we finished 8th in the quarterfinals of the USAM at Riviera. So lost to Doug Gim, who's now on the PGA Tour. But same thing, he was ranked 1,600 or something crazy in the country and hadn't really done anything yet. But we had a mantra that week of one shot at a time, and don't look at what their resume is. Don't look at anything. Let's just go play. And he beat 2 really good guys, and that was probably one of my favorite moments. Yeah.
It's quite interesting because obviously like with Good Yang being top 800, Joey being top 1,600, and these you can go on these super stellar runs. What for the two of you kind of dictates the beginning of that run? What really leads into that? I mean, obviously we're all good golfers, but what makes you take that next step and go, I'm just going to do it? Like, what for the two of you kind of leads into that mentally, and like, where do you as coaches influence that?
Go ahead.
I mean, I think it stems from a couple previous experiences. You start building on some confidence. Like for Joey, he had won the Canadian International Amateur, and then a few months later, he finished 4th in the Aaron Baddeley, and then a few months later, he shot 59 at Rams Hill just in a practice round, and then he just like kept doing little things like that. So you could see that it was coming. I think he was just building on some of that momentum and started to probably believe that he could do it. And once you start believing and you see it, I think you could kind of do anything. That's the beauty of golf, is just a ball and you go into play. Nobody knows where you're going to hit it except for you. So if you get that confidence, I think you can do pretty special things.
Yeah, I think when you go to like USAM qualifier or whatnot, I mean, you gotta get in the top 64. So it's not like you have to have two of the best days ever. You just got to be in it. And we always say, be in contention with 9 holes to play. So whatever that it takes throughout your rounds, think about that. And how am I going to get there? So if you're going to try to be a hero on a shot, that can cost you a triple, or you can lay up and maybe get up and down. Saving shots like that throughout the day, I think just help your momentum. And then all of a sudden you do make a birdie or you make 2 in a row, and then you start getting that confidence like we talked about. And playing fearless, really, just can't be afraid of it. It's like, we're not curing cancer at the end of the day. And it's like, it's a game. And so the guys that play with fearless, I think have more success than people that are so worried about the results and the number. So having that mindset, I think, is huge. Just building that confidence is
very interesting. So do you find as a whole with your teams, obviously emphasizing that back 9 contention, do you feel like there's a significant difference in their scoring average between the front 9 and the back 9, or do those stats typically kind of reflect themselves almost, and it's almost the same?
Yeah, the consistent players, it's pretty consistent on both ends. They might get on a hot streak out one side and maybe not so hot the other, but since there's not a lot of ups and downs, if you kind of play that level, you see a lot of the same scores on both sides.
So I'm curious because for me, I remember my old coach kind of used to say the same thing. It's like, all right, that's back 9. And that's always been me as a player. I always, I don't really like to hit a lot of balls before my tournaments. I like maybe 20 or 30 just to get warmed up. But I've been coined as a player who goes on back 9 runs, and so I'll consistently shoot 1 even, 1 under, 1 over on the front 9, and all of a sudden on the back I'll throw out like a 31, and everybody's like, where did that come from? And it's like, I feel like for me mentally, it's like that was the process that I got in was, I just need to stay alive. I need to stay alive. I need to keep thriving and burning. And then all of a sudden, it's like when I get to the back 9, it's like a flip switch. Like the flip switches, and it's like, okay, go. And you can just go and play golf. It's like, a lot of coaches will kind of emphasize that hot start. They want to get onto that barrel start. But I know in my experience, that almost cost me because I was too aggressive. Or, we talked with Rick, Cussinghouse last week a lot about challenge versus skills. And I feel like confidence does play a huge factor in talent-wise and in like results too. Because if you have this confidence and you're barreling down, like 16 and you're 1 or 2 under par, you're like, no, I'm just going to shoot 5. It's like that's such a huge difference than for players maybe going, I need to hold on. I saw this a couple weeks ago in like one of our tournaments where a kid shot 7 under the first day, blistering onto a lead, and he spent the entire second day just scared and trying to hold on to his cards. It was just slowly just like it was him playing scared, and then he finally got to hole 12, and it's an iron off the tee, and it's OB left. You could hit Longwich there and still have a 7 iron, and he hit 4 irons. And it was just one of those mindsets that that he just got in. He's like, I can't hit that shot, I can't. And we have this reverse psychology almost. It's like when we tell ourselves not to do something, we're gonna do it. And I felt really bad, but I talked to him after round. I was like, hey, look, you shot 65. You can do it again. And I had him go over his mindset for the 2 days, and he said, yeah, my mindsets were completely different. In hindsight, of course. But it's this huge factor of not being results oriented, but being shot oriented. Chris, like you touched on this, like a lot. Where it's, like with Joey, it's just shot by shot. Take it one shot at a time. Don't even worry about anything else. Like I always like to Google my opponents like before I play them because I almost get amped. So it's slightly different for me because it's like, I get to play like the top 100 ranked, like junior in the country. It's like fantastic. I was so excited to play that. I used to play match play back in Australia against like different clubs, and oh, this guy's like the best in the district. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go kick his ass. Like that's so much fun to me. where do you guys find like the mental state comes in for golfers, and what advice like would you give to junior golfers or collegiate athletes trying to break through to that next level?
Well, from the mental side, I mean, you gotta earn some of that, right? Like you gotta keep getting better, and I mean, through tournaments, you'll gain that experience, and you'll get better and start believing in yourself. And I think you should probably play some tournaments that are maybe things that you should win, and then see if you can win it. I think there's a lot of times people just keep trying to push it further and further up, and they just go farther and farther down the list on the leaderboard. So I think it's good to play down a little bit and gain confidence that way.
Yeah, I think you can see Tiger like Augusta, like he never goes out and shoots 64 the first round. He's playing to, he knows he has 4 rounds in it, so he averages 77.1 that first round all the time, and then he just slowly kind of builds, and then when it comes down the stretch, he always kind of dominates. But I think not thinking you have to go out and shoot 64 that first round. Go out and try to shoot 70, 71, and then just to kind of slowly evolve into maybe one of those days you get hot and make down the stretch or something. But it doesn't have to be fancy for 4 straight rounds. It just has to be solid. And I think college golf, especially, it's the best players don't shoot super low. It's just they don't shoot high. So they, on a bad day, they learn how to manage it, still shoot 73 or 74 to kind of keep them. So I think that helps with the confidence as well. Not going out there and shooting 78 or something. Bad days. You have 70 in college, you're going to be an all. And that sounds easy, but it's only 200 hard. So for whatever reason, it's challenging.
Much harder courses.
Yeah,
playing for your team.
And the pressure too.
I
mean, I felt it. But I was in kind of a different mindset to most of the golfers, where my coach kind of was in the mindset of, well, hey, like I'm giving you a chance. You got to earn respond on the team. For me, it's like if I don't perform, then I remember there was one time I made my debut out of Palms, which for anybody playing collegiate golf, don't, because that's not fun to make your debut. But it was. It's for me, and I finally found my confidence in my 3rd year because my coach was like, "I want you to go out and play golf and enjoy it. I don't care. You're going to qualify for your tournament. I'm going to make sure of that. You just go out and have fun." And it's like I did. It was that complete mindset change of this negative keeping my spot, and it was like, okay, I'm just going to go play. And it is. I feel like that's such a huge burden lifted, and if players can, and that kind of comes back to playing for a college that might be not a reach. You might have to be fighting for all the time. It is. It's a grind. It's mentally draining. It's when you can play for a team that you're going to play on. It's going to make it so much easier. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Coach Donovan, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on. A lot of good conversations, and we'll hope to see you guys soon.